Let me make this clear. We, the taxpayers, are literally paying them to do this to us. Hello, it's me, Coco, and today I wanted to share with you a little bit about a movie that I recently saw called The Story of Plastic. I had the opportunity to watch this movie through a private screening, and boy, did I want to share with you some of my takeaways. Watching the movie, I kind of had the feeling like everything that it said I kind of already knew, but it put it all together into a story that made total sense. I want to share with you some of my main takeaways. The first takeaway is that the oil and gas companies really want to point the finger at us and say, you aren't doing a good enough job with waste management, you aren't recycling well enough, and on, but it is not our fault. A lot of people don't have the choice to buy plastic or not, whether that be for a financial reason or because there literally isn't any other choice. For example, yogurt. Do you know of a yogurt company that doesn't sell its product in a plastic container? I can't think of any off the top of my head. There's some that are in glass actually, but most of them are in plastic. Am I right? And then the one that's in glass is like $5 for one pot. So these big multinational corporations are making these products for us. And are they going to change as long as we and the lawmakers are enabling them by paying them to keep doing the system that's already in place? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. In order for the system to improve, we need to make a big systemic change. This isn't going to just happen in our trash cans, in our kitchens. This needs to happen on a wide scale, starting with the companies themselves. It's going to happen by changing public opinion about the necessity of plastic and putting pressure on our lawmakers to enforce a circular economy for these companies to take responsibility of the waste that they are producing themselves, instead of us, the taxpayers, having to deal with it. Do you want to pay for this? No! While they're at it, they can stop providing these huge subsidies for the companies to be not just extracting the oil, but also making it into the plastic that is polluting the earth and making millions of people suffer. Let me make this clear. We, the taxpayers, are literally paying them to do this to us. My second takeaway, is plastic a total evil? The oil companies that are extracting the oil in order to make these plastic products would really love us to agree that no, these are very important products for our everyday life. They save lives. You have a man running on a prosthetic leg. You have a nurse inserting some medicine into an IV for a medical patient. But those are not the things that we're talking about. I mean, it would be great if we could have compostable plastic alternatives for these products, but the thing that we're really trying to focus on right now is single-use plastics, usually that come with the food that we eat and other products that we consume that come from the store. These products need to be banned because otherwise people are not going to be able to make the right choices for the same reasons that I said before. A, for financial reasons, because they can't afford the non-plastic alternative like that yogurt cup in a glass pot, or because there's literally no other option. We're doing the best that we can, and those companies are making millions off of us. Meanwhile, the planet is getting polluted, people are being exploited, and people are getting sick, but more on that later. My third takeaway is something that I missed the first time that I watched this documentary, but I rewatched it to make some notes for this video. It's a fact that China isn't accepting recyclables from the US and from Europe anymore. And I wasn't really sure why. In the movie, there's a really quick clip that says a lot of the plastic that they were buying this entire time wasn't even recyclable. There's nothing you can do with it. Like all those like films and stuff that come on your TV dinners and stuff like that, you can't recycle that. That does not turn into another film for a TV dinner. That's just trash. So they decided to quit accepting our plastic recyclables so that they can focus on upgrading the quality of their recycling industry. Good for them. Now what's happening is that All of that plastic needs somewhere to go. So where is it going? Indonesia, the Philippines, India, more and more marginalized societies. My fourth takeaway, look at the pictures from the landfills and the giant piles of trash. What kind of trash do you see in them? It's plastic bags, it's single-use packaging for food. You know, these plastic Starbucks cups, chip bags, which were never really recyclable from the beginning, packaging for detergent. You just can't really trust that recycling sign. You can't really count on the thing that you're buying and throwing away in the recycling bin to actually be turned into another usable product. It's garbage and it's gonna stay on the planet. There are these really smart people who are being paid a lot of money by these multinational corporations and oil companies, energy companies. Put them to the task, maybe, to create an alternative to the plastic so that we can come up with something that is biodegradable, isn't gonna last longer than our bodies. For example, all those iced coffees that you've gotten from Starbucks, every single one of those cups exists in the world in some form. And in some cases, that cup is gonna stay on the planet longer than you will. We need to find alternatives for these products, and I'm sure those people can come up with something good. I'm waiting. Fifth takeaway. This recycling industry is only possible because of very low wage labor. The recycling industry really takes advantage of these marginalized groups. Do you want to be contributing to this industry that takes advantage of very poor people? I don't. Sixth takeaway, this is something that I knew because I have seen, but I never really processed it completely. These multinational companies have a double standard in the quality of products and their packaging that they sell to different countries. For example, as you can see in this photo, you can see a bottle of a shampoo that is recyclable and has actually already been paid for by the company itself. On the other hand, in India, the same product is in a sachet that's not recyclable, that's going to end up in the garbage, accumulating in a pile, possibly being burned just for us to breathe it in. It's just another example of how these companies are taking advantage of marginalized groups by giving them products for which the packaging they are not being responsible for disposing of. They're not even being responsible for designing it in a way that other people can dispose of it correctly. Takeaway number 7, I already said this, but I'm gonna say it again. It is not your fault. I, for one, didn't really wake up to this information until fairly recently. And in the past, I didn't really know any better, and I just went along with, the societal expectations for me to, purchase and consume these products in the way that they are teaching us to do through advertisement and setting up cultural norms. But now I know that we need to be holding these companies accountable for what they're doing. And now you do too. My 8th point, my message to all of the fossil fuel industries, look, you're not gonna win this battle. It's not going to end well. Even if it does end well financially for you, which maybe that's all you care about, it's not gonna end well for pretty much everybody else on the planet, including you and all of your kin, your descendants, and so on and so forth. They're all gonna know that you were responsible for this. So here's my call to the oil and gas companies. You can be a hero by changing. Generations thereafter will know the name of your company and maybe even your personal name if you are a part of changing the system. Just do it in a way where millions of people don't suffer. Don't kid yourself into thinking that this is impact investing, because this is the future. How do I know? Because this is the only way that we can move forward from this and survive with a life that looks even a little bit like what we have now. Things are gonna start changing real fast for your kids, for your grandkids. Invent a compostable plastic alternative and then license it to every single company that sells stuff in plastic, and you are gonna make a ton of money and you could be a hero. How many energy companies can say that? You have all this money. Why don't you invest in developing products that are going to replace these plastics? Because if you don't, someone else will. And they're gonna make a lot of profit off of that because this is what the people want. We're tired of this trash. There are biodegradable plastic alternatives that won't last longer than you and me. And those alternatives won't expel all this extra CO2 in the air because they're not made of fossil fuels. Speaking of CO2 in the atmosphere, here is my 9th point. When you burn garbage, you don't get rid of it. You just turn it into garbage of the air. Air pollution. It goes into the air, we breathe it, and we get sick. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? So all of that plastic is in the air going through the smokestacks. We breathe it, we get sick. I'm just gonna leave that one there. I don't know, I just think it's pretty obvious. My 10th point is not really quite so obvious. I think like breathing in pollution and then maybe like getting lung cancer seems obvious. But here's something else. I found a lot of parts of this documentary relatable. Here's a particularly sad part of the documentary that I found personally too relatable. When I was growing up in my early childhood, I used to live near oil wells, and then I moved in my later childhood near a refinery. In the documentary, they tell us that children who are growing up near these energy plants have a much higher risk of developing leukemia. My family has zero history of leukemia, and yet both my brother and my sister got leukemia. My brother has thankfully recovered, but my sister unfortunately passed away from complications from her leukemia. So this hits pretty close to home. I do remember her telling me that she believed that the house that we grew up in our early childhood, was on top of some kind of like a gas field or something that was emitting toxic gases and put us at risk for developing leukemia. Did my sister die from exposure from these toxins? Honestly, we're never really gonna know for sure. But we do know that these things are entering our bodies and they're making us sick. People freak out about vaccines, they freak out about plant estrogen and tofu, and meanwhile, we have plastic everywhere, and it's scientifically proven that there are hormone disruptors in pretty much every type of plastic. The same kind of plastic that our childhood toys were made out of, that we were chewing on and slobbering all over and throwing everywhere and then putting back in our mouths. Here's my next takeaway. It's a quote from the movie. Plastics are not driven by the demand for them, but by the supply. Let that sink in for a little bit. We don't buy plastic because we want plastic. We buy plastic because it's on everything. It's on everything because it's a byproduct of the oil that's being extracted, that's making us sick, that we're paying for. I mean, isn't this too much? Isn't this too much? We don't want or need these plastics. They're being sold to us by these companies, and it's time for us to rethink alternatives. Number 12 takeaway, how is this all flying under the radar? Of course, it's money. These companies speak one language fluently, and that is cash. There's huge money to be made in oil, gas, and plastic products, even though we know that they're detrimental to our health and to the environment. How does this happen? Huge subsidies for oil companies to keep doing what they're doing because it's good for the economy. Well, you know what's bad for the economy? Climate change. People dying en masse because of environmental poisoning. So we need to be more focused on the quality of life instead of the number of dollars in the pockets. Because as it turns out, it's actually not the same thing. My next takeaway from the movie, we cannot rely on the cleanup as the solution. We can't rely on boats coming out to the ocean to trawl up all of the plastic because it's just not working fast enough. Since these industries are now hawking their products to people in the developing world, there are more people than ever who are buying these plastic products and disposing of them, and maybe even disposing of them in places that really don't have the waste management systems that need to be in place for these products. We need to reduce, reuse, and refuse plastic products in order for this to even kind of like slow down a little bit. It's gonna be really hard to stop using single-use packaging, but we can do it. Here's the next point. It's not enough to recycle because these things just aren't really being recycled to begin with. What you're throwing into the trash bin, you tell yourself it's going to be recycled. This cup is going to be turned into another cup, but that's actually just not what happens. Only 2% of recyclables are actually effectively recycled. That means something that is recycled into a comparable quality as the first product and can be used again. But usually they'll turn into low quality plastics like plastic bags and so forth. They can only be used once or twice, and then after that they are just thrown away with all the rest of the crap that we're throwing out. Now, I know editing this video, it sounds like I'm kind of anti-recycling, but my point is actually that we just can't rely on recycling alone. But should we still recycle? Yeah. If 2% of our recycling is effectively recycled, that's 2% less of the stuff that we're using that doesn't go into landfill or get burned or whatever. So keep recycling. Now, I know I said that we need to start with huge systemic change, and that's still true. However, we can start by looking at ourselves as a part of the strategy by doing a little something called a waste audit. What is a waste audit? You look at your own trash and you can see what's in there, what kind of products are in your trash can. Maybe those are some things that you can reduce. Maybe those are things that you can compost. Maybe those are some things that can be recycled, if they ever do get recycled. Can you stop buying these products? Vote with your dollars. Companies are paying attention to where you put your money. Reduce your demand by buying fewer of those products and tell your friends, and then the market will be changed. So here are the next steps. Keep recycling. At least 2% of it is being effectively recycled. Reduce the amount of plastic that you consume. Buy more things that are packaged in aluminum and glass or no packaging at all, like at the farmer's market. Work towards systemic change in your home, in your community, and then nationally and globally. Everything that we use should be able to be recycled or composted. Put pressure on companies to shoulder the cost of disposing of the packaging that they sell to the consumers and the products as well. Taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for it. Redesign products so that they're more environmentally friendly. Politicians love to listen to people who are paying attention to them. Guess who gives them a lot of attention? Lobbyists, who are paid lots of money to wine and dine them and promise them lots of money for their campaigns. Well, you know what? We can do that too. En masse. Tell them that we're watching. We're paying attention to what they're voting for. To reduce waste, we need to pass eco-friendly legislation and change public opinion about it. Focus on small-scale distribution, localized systems like farmers markets, local products, and reusable packaging. Drive demand by opting, maybe demanding, these options. If you want to get more involved, you can look up the Break Free Plastic Movement. I'll put them in the description box, and I'll also tell you how you can watch the movie. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it enlightening. What's the topic that hit home to you the most? Do you have any questions? Do you want to talk about this? Write a comment in the comment box below. Subscribe if you want to see more content from me, and like this video if you think that more people should know about this. All right, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.